You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
Former Special Counsel Robert Mueller began and ended his much anticipated testimony today before the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. In his opening statement, he reiterated what he has been saying all along. His report speaks for itself. Here's an excerpt from his opening statement.
As you know, in May 2017, the Acting Attorney General asked me to serve as special counsel. I undertook that role because I believed that it was of paramount interest to the nation to determine whether a foreign adversary had interfered in the presidential election. As the Acting Attorney General said at the time, the appointment was necessary in order for the American people to have full confidence in the outcome. My staff and I carried out this assignment with that critical objective in mind: to work quietly, thoroughly, and with integrity so that the public would have full confidence in the outcome. The order appointing me as special counsel directed our office to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. This included investigating any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. It also included investigating efforts to interfere with or obstruct our investigation. Throughout the investigation, I continually stressed two things to the team that we had assembled. First, we needed to do our work as thoroughly as possible and as expeditiously as possible. It was in the public interest for our investigation to be complete and not to last a day longer than was necessary. Second, the investigation needed to be conducted fairly and with absolute integrity. Our team would not leak or take other actions that could compromise the integrity of our work. All decisions were made based on the facts and the law. During the course of our investigation, we charged more than 30 defendants with committing federal crimes, including 12 officers of the Russian military. 7 defendants have been convicted or pled guilty. Certain of the charges we brought remain pending today. And for those matters, I stress that the indictments contain allegations and every defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. But there are certain points that bear emphasis. First, our investigation found that the Russian government interfered in our election in sweeping and systematic fashion. Second, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired with the Russian government in its election interference activities. We did not address collusion, which is not a legal term. Rather, we focused on whether the evidence was sufficient to charge any member of the campaign with taking part in a criminal conspiracy, and it was not. Third, our investigation of efforts to obstruct the investigation and lie to investigators was of critical importance. Obstruction of justice strikes at the core of the government's effort to find the truth and to hold wrongdoers accountable. Finally, as described in Volume 2 of our report, we investigated a series of actions by the President towards the investigation. Based on Justice Department policy and principles of fairness, we decided we would not make a determination as to whether the President committed a crime. That was our decision then, and it remains our decision today. Over the course of my career, I have seen a number of challenges to our democracy. The Russian government's effort to interfere in our election is among the most serious. And as I said on May 29th, this deserves the attention of every American.
Joining me now with some analysis of today's events is my rock star panel. We have civil rights attorney Robert Patillo, Dr. Niambi Carter, assistant professor of the political science department at the one and only Howard University, HU.
You know.
Had to get that in. And Republican strategist Chris Prudhomme. Welcome to Roland Martin Unfiltered, everybody.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
What a day. I just want to say at the top, and I know all he's given us his preliminary remarks so far, but I'd like to lay some ground rules. I listened, I watched, I paid attention to the hearings today. Anybody else watching and paying attention? I know you guys were paying attention. Right. And then I listened and I paid attention to the so-called analysis and reporting afterward. So what I would prefer us to do with this time that we have to give our people some information is stick to facts, sound analysis, reason-based arguments, right? I don't want to hear about who performed better, who's winning the war on the pissing contest between Mueller and the president, or any such shenanigans, because this time is precious. Can we agree to those ground rules?
Agreed.
All right. So, come on, Professor. What he says is what he's been saying. But what was your main takeaway just from the opening when he had an opportunity to spend his 3 minutes any way that he wanted to? This is what he gave us.
Well, I mean, I think the attention to the ways in which Russians did interfere, leaving aside whether the Donald Trump campaign participated in any of this or encouraged this behavior, but this idea that we should be concerned about the sanctity of our democracy and our elections as being an overarching concern. And I think that's not partisan. I think that's actually something that all people should care about. And I think that was the fact that he spent so much time talking about that rather than all of the other stuff, and really hitting home that we have another election coming up. This can happen again, and we haven't really done anything, I think, in intervening time to really shore up our democracy against these kinds of attacks.
Right. Okay. Now, and certainly he did that, and I think that that's where he ended when he gave his one statement about the hearing that came before today's testimony, and that's where he started today. And every good lawyer at least knows that how you open and how you finish is what you want people to remember. But what did you think, Esquire, of his ground rules in terms of this is why I'm here and this is why I'm not here?
Well, it's one of those interesting points. Listening to the media analysis and even some of the comments from our esteemed Congress people, Seneca the younger said the disappointment is based on expectations. And many people expected something different out of this hearing than what they got. Robert Mueller told us on the 29th when he did his press conference, I'm just going to read to you exactly what is in the report. He told us during his opening, I'm only going to talk about what is in the report. The letter from Attorney General Barr said, we're only going to talk about what is in the report. He talked about exactly what was in the report. He did not answer questions outside the four corners of the report. He did not go into some of the wild goose chases that people wanted to take him on. He did not say what people wanted him to say on either side of the aisle. He did exactly what he's supposed to do as a seasoned prosecutor. He stuck to the law, stuck to the facts, and people on both sides of the aisle seem upset about that. I think we live in such a partisan time that when somebody is just doing their job and being nonpartisan and not trying to pretend to be a cable news talking head, that people are amazed, like, what do you mean? Like, you're just talking about the facts. Why would you do that? What's wrong with him? And if you looked at social media, people made it seem like he had dementia, like he had Alzheimer's or something. Like, no, he's just answering the question in a thoughtful and considerate manner. He's determining whether or not it's a privileged issue. He's determining whether or not it's confidential, whether or not it interferes with any other ongoing prosecutions or investigations. And he's saying, refer to the report. I'm not going to read to you from the 400-page report. You have the 400-page report. And other than that, leave me alone. I'm a 74-year-old man. I'm going home.
Right.
And that's all he did.
Well, no. And I have some issues about the ageism, because I don't even know why the fact that he's 74 ever comes up with anybody, because the job that he did and the way that he did it, for somebody who's had to prep witnesses before and somebody who's had to be in the lawyer chair as a witness in a case that I've supervised, that is the seat nobody, no age, I don't care, top of your game, not top of your game, that seat is hotter than anybody can imagine just looking at it, because your landmines are invisible.
Everywhere.
When they're asking you the question, you're like, Let me think, you're tooling in your head. How can I answer this and not say this, but still say that and be true to that all at the same time? But we're still on the opening, which means I get to come to my Republican friend for the day. God bless you. God bless you. And they put you so close to me, which means I got to be extra nice.
Robert summed it up great.
Chris, here's the thing. Just from his opening remarks, to me, I couldn't understand why in a few minutes later, and we're going to see it right off of the gates, the good old GOP, the party of Reagan, it was like too much coffee. All he was saying is, here's what's in my report, here's what's important, here's what I plan to say, here's what I don't plan to say, this is the job that I've been doing for the past quarter century of my life, period. What there could have gotten people so worked up?
Well, again, back to Robert's point, look, we live in such a polarizing time. That's just really what it comes down to. You look at Jim Jordan, when he was speaking, with such passion and enthusiasm. Even I was like, wait a minute, but going back to him and Comey's relationship, obviously it's common sense they work together. So Comey obviously is a friend. Again, a lot of this is just sensationalism, and I think it's really overproduced. And unfortunately, I do think optically it was a disaster. 2020 is going to be all about battleground states, and Pelosi seems to understand that. Many people on the left seem to not understand that. And I think that's what they have to kind of get back and kind of center to. And this entire hearing was exactly what it was supposed to be. Exactly what the report was. And I think people went into this hearing with expectations, in the media on both sides. Horrible job at pumping it up as if, first of all, as if I don't think a majority of America really cares, but they almost in a way made you want to care and say this is what is pumped up as some big movie. And then when it happened, people's expectations were, well, wait a minute, to Robert's point, Mueller, spoke very methodically, which people interpreted as slowly, whatever the case may be. But he did the right thing. He wanted to be certain and sure because he knew every single word and every sentence he said would be ripped apart and ripped to pieces.
He was an expert witness with which I would have had no problems. I would have been the lawyer in the back going, yeah,
right.
You waited just like I told you to.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
All right, folks, you've heard me talk a lot about marijuanastock.org. Why? Because I want to keep you informed of investment opportunities that make sense. We have all watched the growth of the cannabis industry. A recent report by New Frontier Data estimates the global cannabis market at over $340 billion. We know that marijuana legalization is sweeping the country state by state. We also know that marijuana has a good cousin, the hemp plant, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. And they need land to grow all of the plants. Folks, this is not rocket science. It's just an investment, an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. In their business model, it is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. Our friends at 420 Real Estate decided to do something special for the Roland Martin Unfiltered family. Originally, the minimum investment level was $500. Right now, though, you can invest in the crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. The range is from $200 to $10,000. Again, this is a $340 billion industry, okay, that is still growing, and you can get in with as little as $200. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game, and you can do it now.
Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.